we're going to go ahead and start with lesson 3, multiply and divide real numbers. Just as a reminder, if you start with a fraction, then you got to end with a fraction. If you start with a decimal, you got to end with a decimal. Alright, we're going to start with rules to multiply and divide. A quick way to remember how to deal with positive and negative numbers. When you're multiplying or dividing, if you have the same sign, therefore it'll give you a positive value. Now let's give an example. So let's say I have 2 times 2. Both signs are the same, they're both positive, therefore our answer is a positive. If you have a negative 2 times another negative 2, both signs are the same, they're both negative, therefore the answer is going to be a positive 4. Okay. If we look at another option, the other option, which is different signs. If you have different signs, therefore it'll give you a negative. So negative 2 times a positive 2, different signs, one's positive, one's negative, gives me a negative 4. If I have a 2 times a negative 2, both signs are different, different signs gives me a negative, therefore it's a negative 4. This also applies to divide. So if I have a negative 8 over 4, both signs are different, therefore it's going to give me a negative sign of negative 2. If I have, on this example, a negative 8 over a negative 4, I have the same sign on both the values, therefore the answer has to be a positive, and that's going to give me a 2. Alright, so we're going to use those rules to help us here to multiply different things. So let's multiply different numbers. So we're going to start with integers. You have a negative 6 times a negative 7. Again, if you go back to the rules, if the signs are the same, you're going to end up with a positive. Therefore, negative 6 times negative 7 is going to give us 42. Okay. We have 8 times negative 3. You have two different signs. When they have different signs, it's going to give you a negative. Therefore, the answer is going to be negative 24. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and deal with decimals. Okay, when we're dealing with decimals, you have here 5.8 times 4. We're going to need the calculator for this, so I'm just going to go ahead and get the calculator out. And we're going to multiply 5.8 times 4. And we get 23.2. So I'll go ahead and write 23.2. Again, the two signs are positive. When both signs are the same, it is going to give me a positive. And we have here negative 6.1 times negative 7.5. So get the calculator out. We're going to take negative 6.1. Again, here's our negative 6.1 times, and you see when you're going to need a parentheses there, so we'll put a parentheses, negative 7.5, press enter, and we're going to get 45.75. When you have the same signs, it's going to give you a positive. Let's look at fractions, but before we do that, let's go back. Let's look at this down here. To multiply fractions, multiply across the top, which is the numerator, multiply across the bottom, which is the denominator. So let's look at this example right here. You got 8/3 times 4/5. Alright, so all we need to do is multiply across the top. So we're going to multiply 8 times 4. That's going to give us 32. And we multiply across the denominator. 3 times 5 is 15. For the fraction here, we have a 6 times negative 7/5. Okay, we want to deal with this by making this a 6 over 1. And now we're going to just follow and multiply across the top. 6 times a negative 7, and this is going to be 42. 1 times 5 is going to give us 5. And you have different signs, therefore it's going to be negative. Alright, the last example, we're going to multiply across 10 times 3 is going to be 30 over 6 times 7, that's 42. Both of them have the same sign, both of them are negative, therefore it's a positive, so we'll leave it like that. Now, if we look at this, we can reduce this. If we're going to reduce this can be reduced by dividing both sides by 2. I get 15 over 21. But 15 and 21 can be reduced even further because they're both divisible by 3, so this becomes 5 over 7. Now let's check our answers with the calculator. So let's take out the calculator out. Let's try some of these. Okay, so let's start with this one right here. Let's do the 6 times the negative 7/5. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll just put this in parentheses. So parentheses 6, and then another parentheses to multiply it by negative 7 divided by 5. Press enter, and I get negative 8.4. But if we want to change this to a fraction, then you're going to click math and then enter twice, and that will change our answer to a decimal, and to a fraction, and it's negative 42 over 5. Let's go on to the next example. We're going to do negative, so parentheses, negative 10 over 6, okay, times negative 3/7. Okay, we're going to press enter. We get our decimal. Again, we just have to click math, enter, and we get our reduced value. The calculator will always reduce it, so that's the great thing about using the calculator, that it will always give you the reduced value, which is 5/7, which makes this, we can check that this is correct. Alright, let's move on to the last thing. Alright, for the last one, we are going to do this mixed number. So we have 6 and 3/5 times, remember it's got the parentheses, times negative 1 over 2/5. So how do we deal with this? We are going to multiply these two numbers, the 6 and the 5, and add a 3. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So 5 times 6 is 30. 30 plus 3 is going to give us 33 over 5. This process is called changing it from a mixed number to an improper fraction. So we're going from a proper fraction to an improper fraction. Alright, we're going to do the same process for this one. We're going to go ahead and multiply the negative 1 times the 5 and add a 2. So negative 1 times 5 is negative 5 plus the 2 is going to give us a value of, well, in this case we're going to multiply 1 times 5 plus the 2 is going to give us a 7, and then this is going to be 7 over 5, and that would be the improper fraction. So we're going to multiply again 5 times 1 and add the 2. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and multiply across as we did over here. We're going to multiply across the numerator. So 33 times 7 is going to give us 231 all over 5 times 5, which is 25. Now you have one that is positive and one that is negative, and because their signs are different, this is going to be a negative, and that would be the answer for that. And you can check this in the calculator. You can go ahead and put a parentheses, 33 divided by 5, close parentheses, and then again open parentheses, negative 7 over 5, close parentheses, and that'll give you the answer. The multiplicative inverse, that is to multiply by what number to equal 1. So we want to know what number do I need to multiply to get it make it equal to 1. So let's look at this example. We have a 2. What number do I need to multiply to turn the 2 and make it equal into a 1? Well, that would be 1 over 2. Okay. For the 8, what number do I need to multiply so that this equals a 1? Okay, well that would be 1 over 8. Well, when you're doing these problems right here, really what you're doing is you're going to do the reciprocal of the value. The reciprocal means to flip a fraction or flip the value. Here I have a 2. Think of this as 2 over 1. You flip this around, it's 1 over 2, therefore this should equal 1. 8 is the same as 8 over 1. If you flip 8 over 1, you get 1/8. You multiply across and you end up with a 1. For the 6, you're going to do 6 over 1. Therefore, it's going to be a negative 1 over 6. And that will give you a 1. For the fraction here, 4/5. So we want to multiply the reciprocal, which is going to be 5 over 4. And that will give us a 1. For a negative 1 over 3, we want to, again, do the reciprocal. So it'll be a negative 3 over 1. And that'll make it equal to a 1. Alright, so let's look at some examples here. For the integers, I've got negative 12 divided by negative 2. So think of this as negative 12 divided by negative 2. It means the same thing. So you are going to get a value of 6. Again, if you have two signs that are the same, whether you're multiplying or dividing, if the signs are the same, it'll give you a positive number. 5 divided by 3, well, as this is going to equal just 5 divided by 3. If you want to change this to a decimal, then what you want to do is get the calculator out, and we're gonna we'll divide 5 divided by 3. This equals 1.666666 all the way, and then there's a 7 at the end. So really the 6 is repeating over and over again. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and write it as 1.6, and then we'll draw a little line on the top indicating that the 6 is just repeating over and over again. For a decimal, negative 16.4 divided by 4. I'm going to need the calculator for this. So I'm going to put parentheses, negative 16.4, and divide that by 4. I get negative 4.1. Now let's look at fractions. For fractions, when you divide fractions, you're going to flip the second fraction and multiply. So that's what we were doing earlier, which is learning how to flip and do the reciprocal. So you're going to flip the second fraction, which is the reciprocal, and multiply. So we have 5 divided by 3, 5/3 divided by 4/7. So we're going to go ahead and take 5/3, okay, and we're going to multiply. So we're going to multiply the value of the 4/7, but we're going to flip the second fraction. So we're going to do the reciprocal, so it'd be 7 over 4. And now we can go ahead and multiply across. So 5 times 7 is going to be 35. 3 times 4 is going to be 12. And that's how you divide fractions. Here's another example, 3 over 8 divided by negative 2. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take 3/8. We're going to change the division sign to a multiplication sign. So we're going to put another parenthesis because we're going to change this and flip this from a negative 2 to a value of negative 1 over 2. So we do the reciprocal, and now we can go ahead and multiply across. I didn't change the sign because all I did is flip the value. Remember, we're trying to find the value that when you take this, it'll equal a value of 1. So that the only one that works is a negative 1 over 2. So 3 times negative 1 is going to give us a value of negative 3. 8 times 2 is going to give us 16, and that's reduced. Let's go on to another example here. Let's do negative 10 over 3 divided by negative 5/2. Okay, we want to do the following again. We're going to change the sign to a multiplication, and then we're going to flip the second fraction. So this is going to equal to negative 10/3. Again, we're going to change the division now to a multiplication, so I'll use the parentheses. And we're going to do the reciprocal of negative 5/2, which is going to be the value of negative 2/5. Now we multiply across. 10 times 2 is a 20. 3 times 5 is going to be 15. Now we know that a negative times a negative is a positive, or if both of these fractions have the same sign, when you have the same sign, it's going to be a positive. Now we can reduce this. This is divisible. Both sides can be divided by 5. So if we divide 20 by 5, we get 4. And 15 by 5, we get 3. Now let's show this example in the calculator. So we're going to go ahead and put parentheses, negative 10 divided by 3, close parentheses. And then we're going to add negative 2 divided by 5. And we press enter. This is the answer in decimal form. We want to change that to a fraction. We're going to press math and press enter twice, and I get the 4/3. So that is correct. Now let's move on to mixed numbers. 8 2/3 divided by 4. I need to change this proper fraction to an improper fraction, and the way we do that is by multiplying the 8 and the 3 and add a 2. So we're going to multiply 8 times 3, that's 24, plus add a 2, so 24 plus 2 is 26, and all of that is over 3, and that's going to be divided by 4. Alright, so now we go ahead and apply the rule of flip the second fraction and multiply it. So we're going to take 23 over 6 over 3, change the sign to a multiplication, so we're going to multiply it, and then we're going to change this, which is really 4 over 1, and we're going to flip it as 1 over 4. We multiply across. 26 times 1 is going to be 26. And 3 times 4 is going to be 12. And we can reduce this by dividing both sides by 2. 26 divided by 2 is 13. 12 divided by 2 is 6. And that would be reduced. This is the last part. What we want to do here is reduce some of these fractions. So we have 8x plus 12, and it's all divided by 4. So what we can do is separate this. This is really just 8x divided by 4 plus 12 divided by 4. They have a common denominator, and you could have put this together. But now we can reduce 8 over 4. 8 over 4 is a 2, so this becomes 2x. And 12 divided by 4 is 3. And that would be a more simplified version of this fraction right here. 9y plus 15 divided by 3. We want to separate the 9y by 3, separate the 15 over 3. Now we can reduce, and we get 3y, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. So this is another way to write this right here, reduced. And then the last example, 6m divided by 2 and 7 over 2. 6 divided by 2 is going to be 3m. And we don't want to change this to a decimal. We just want to, what we usually want to do is keep this as a fraction. So we're going to just leave it as pi. positive 7/2. Okay, this will be useful later on. So I just wanted to show you this.